For many people, the broad concepts of vocation and calling are best introduced by first learning about them through the more accessible topics of work and employment. So let's look at the word vocation in the context of job and career, and most specifically in terms of satisfaction. So, what should I consider when searching for satisfaction in my work? Do I want a job? Do I want a career? Do I want a vocation? Let's start with job. If I want a job, or if I'm focused on understanding my work as a job, I am really understanding that in terms of skills. When we are good at something, and that is really the sole criterion, we think of that employment as a job. There is not a job ladder that we climb, and we often say things like, oh, that's just a job. That typically happens when our employment or our work is focused almost exclusively on our skills. In this simple example that will become obvious in a minute, we might say, I can swing a hammer. I can operate power tools. I can mentally add and subtract fractions. So I can be a carpenter. Let's look at the next option. What if I want a career? And this is typically the option that college students are looking at. They're typically coming to college so that they can start a career. And in this case, we start with skills also, and we add another element, interests. So we're good at something, and we are curious about it. We are interested in it. And that leads to something that we would typically call a career. In our example, we add to the statements that we had before, the skill statements. I like working with my hands. I like creating what I see in my head. I like building useful things. I want to be a carpenter. So let's pause for a moment and look at those two equation words that we've been using, skills and interests. So if you have skills in a field, you're good at something, but you have no interests, and by that I mean no interest in that field, no interest in the work that you're doing, probably not even an interest in the greater purpose of the organization for which you work, you're unlikely to be engaged. And also, if you take the interests option by itself, if you have interest but have no skills, you won't succeed. People will not hire you. There's a special term we have for interests that we have when we have no skills. We call those hobbies. So let's look at the third option. Do I want a vocation? So one way to understand vocation is to think about it as skills, you're good at something, interests, you are curious about it, and there is another element that is sometimes difficult to pin down, but one way of thinking about it is meaning and purpose. What you're doing, the work that you're doing, the employment provides a deeper sense of meaning for you. And that then becomes at least one of the ways in which we can understand vocation. So we have a third element to the equation, and we might say things like, I feel driven to meet the needs of others. I feel motivated to make new what is broken. I feel compelled to create something lasting. One of the most important elements of vocation is that it is always focused on what I would call the other. It's focused on others, not just our own glory or our own deep satisfaction, our own satisfaction with our own work or being praised for work, but knowing that we are serving others. So feeling driven to meet the needs of others, or motivated to make new what is broken, something outside of you, or compelled to create something lasting outside of you, might be a way of focusing on the inspiration to become something. In this case, the inspiration to become a carpenter. So do you want a job focused on skills? Do you want a career focused on skills and interests? Or are you interested in a vocation focused on skills and interests and maybe something more, a sense of meaning and purpose.